welcome back to the show now with all the talk of millions being spent on pouches to keep kids off their mobile phones. Our resident folklorist Shane Lahan is here to bring us back to a more straightforward time.
This is it, times when all a 10-year-old would have in their pocket was one of these. A conker.
Conker, yeah.
I remember them well. Shane, we're going to be talking about children's games. Tell us about chestnut season.
You know, you're right, Sinead. I was out for a walk the other day and, you know, I came across a chestnut tree. And I was transported back into my own childhood. I was so delighted because I remember when we were small, we'd head off, you know. It was chessie season or chestnut season or conker season.
Yeah.
And we knew it was a very special tree. And we just, piles of us just go off together. Bicycles, hurleys in hand, you know, up onto the, because
to bait them down off the tree.
Literally that, because all the small chestnuts would be on the ground, but we could see gems, golden balls, if you like, up in the air. And we'd hit them off, okay, bring them down. Very importantly, you'd have to take them out of their spiky shell. You remember for that? And we'd step on it. And you wouldn't step too much because you'd have to open it and you'd get the chestnut then, you know, and you'd be looking for the big, fine, chestnut, beautiful mahogany coloured, you know, the shine on them. It was fantastic. For some reason, we didn't have bags or anything with us. We just put them into our pockets and we'd be walking around with maybe, you know, 10, 15 conkers in our pockets and we'd bring them home. And then there was an art and a craft to everything. And I want to bring you back because people had different ways of doing this. One of the first things we did was that we wouldn't use the chessie as we call them, straight away, to make the chessie into a conker. Some people had the hot press. They put them into the hot press where there was a bit of heat and they would dry out a little bit. Okay. We had a fire, we had a grate, long ago, and we put them down. We'd be turning them into all sorts of things. Besides, people had the range. Lots of fellas used to put them up the chimney, believe it or not. Some people left them there for a full year, believe it or not. They were taking, these were
very competitive
professionals. They were called seasoners. You would know about those because there was a burnt complexion. There's one here now. I had that up against the fire the other night. Look at the difference in the colour. And if you were being challenged by that, you knew the darker one was there. But the next thing that happened then is you had to make a hole in the chessie. And I brought in, a lot of people were impatient. They got the hammer, the Cosur Biog, and the nail, and they'd come along and they'd hit that down. That wasn't great because what that did is it split open the chessie to make it weak. The real professionals, of course, they went in and they got the hand drill. I brought this in for you, and they were drilling away mad down over. I won't do it here now because health and safety is against us here. But we were drilling on the chessie, and this was the way that it came out. And then you had your hole then drilled in the chestnut. The next thing, of course, then was you had to get a piece of string to make the chestnut work. Okay, and there were various types of things. Long ago we had twine. Where twine came in an old cake box or something like that. That was no good, right? The best thing you could get was a piece of cotton, string, as it were.
Butcher twine, it says it.
Butcher twine, but it had to be thick enough. But the very best thing that you could get was an old shoelace. And I remember playing Conkers long ago, and you'd have fellas with only one shoe laced up. They'd have their lace taken off, right? But the shoelace was ideal because, look, you could use the very tip of it, and that would get you through. It's sometimes a bit tricky now, but it would get you through into the conker itself. I find it hard to do there.
And I would have thought, Shane, that's so thick that would compromise the integrity of the chestnut because so much of it has gone out. Do you know what I mean?
You know what it was, Sinead, was this, right? When you were hanging that off, right, and someone went to hit that, this would give a little bit the woven fabric of the cake. There was an advantage in the shoelace.
Kind of almost elasticated.
It would absorb the blow that was there. So this was serious business. When you think about it, there was fellas who were really very, very good at this. So the game was played then, and I'll show you. You would hold it out in a particular way. So you hold yours out there now, and Sinead, you go to hit on it.
No, I won't actually.
Do I leave a good bit of string, or do I bring it up close?
There's actually, believe it or not, there's a world Conkers Championship. It's held over in England, okay? And there's an official set of rules. You had to have a minimum of, I think, about 8 inches between your knuckle and the conker, okay? And then the other person, when they went to hit it, they would have different mechanisms for doing that. They would hold it, they would hit it in certain ways. Some fellas would have a side blow, okay?
Stop.
And long ago, some people were very cruel. Now, I wouldn't recommend this now, but some fellas, they wouldn't bother hitting the conker at all. They'd hit your man on the knuckles, whack, okay?
Stop.
No, I'm not suggesting we do anything like that.
Yeah.
No.
But at the moment, you would have maybe one go, or you might have 3 goes. Okay, if for example, when you were playing the game, you got tangled. That was a tangler. It was called. Okay.
Okay.
Then that was forbidden. You then got 3 or sometimes 7 extra blows with the conker. Okay.
Okay.
So there were all these different rules.
Whose fault was the tangle considered to be?
Oh, the person who was hitting was a
Okay.
tangler, because because sometimes that would be unfair.
Yeah.
And then what would happen, of course, is that, let's say your chessie broke the other chestnut. Your chestnut then was worth, it had a power of 1 or 2, okay?
Okay.
And then you held your chestnut up, and some fella went at you, okay? And let's say you broke their chestnut or whatever, it would go up 3, 4, 5. So a fella would have a prize chestnut or a conker, which was worth 8 or 9 different blows. And we kept that kind of record. You know, there was a code of honour in the game of chess, a game of conkers, because you couldn't pretend that it was worth 8 or 9. We learned a lot through the games that we had about how you kept rules. People were cheating and all that.
But you were also taught how to spot a cheat as well, though, Shane, which was almost important. Just before we move on, we can take a lovely picture here, and I think it's from the National Folklore Collection.
It's great.
That's beautiful.
It's a lovely innocence, and I got that. Johnny Dillon up in UCD gave me permission to use that, because our folklore collection is full of these. This is something that a lot of viewers will remember, but it's moving out, as you were saying. We're moving away from all of these games, and you know, it would be lovely to see people playing the old games that come around at different parts of the year. Obviously,
When we were talking about this earlier, I was only walking down the street with Indy the other day, and myself and Connor saw a load of conkers, and she was asking about them, and we were telling her how to play. And she's 3, so she won't be banging conkers off anybody anytime soon. But like, it's so lovely to take that step back in time
it is
to
really,
talk about these things.
And I love the seasonality of it, because, as I said, when I was walking and I saw as you were saying, you saw them, this was the time. And if immediately you were off, you were collecting them, you knew what to do. All of a sudden, then the conkers kind of died out. When I won't say died out, but we moved on. But almost automatically, following the conkers, was the game of marbles. Marbles came in, okay? And marbles are kind of an amazing. These go right back through all antiquity, all over the world. You can go from Egypt, you can go to the Greeks and the Romans, from Mesoamerica to the Maori. Everyone in the world played marbles. Small little stones which were round. And when you think about it, in Cork, we call them glassy alleys. We don't call them marbles at all. But the word alley comes from the word alabaster, which was originally the type of marble. And then sometimes what would happen is that they were made in Germany, they were made out of glass, and later on, and we'd all sorts of different names for all of these. But the most interesting thing for me was, I never ever remember buying a marble. Okay, what you did was that you went into your into school or whatever, and the first thing you did is you got a 2p coin. Here's the old 2p I brought in. Okay, and you would line the 2p up here at the back of against at the wall. Someone would come along, maybe about 3 yards back, and they would try and win the 2p, and they would fire the marble, of course, at the 2p. Okay, and if they missed it, you took their marble, okay? And then they would keep doing that, and eventually somebody would eventually hit it, but you might have 2 or 3 marbles gained in the process that was there.
Yeah.
So that's how you started your marbles off. The next thing that would happen then is that you would line up, and you might put down 2 marbles, maybe like that, okay? And someone again who was maybe 3 yards back, they would fire at those and so on. And we had different types of marbles. These were the absolute gems altogether. These were the super marbles. These were the glassy alleys, but they were called by all sorts of different names. There were daubers, there were King Kongs, sometimes they were called. They had huge names. Taws was the name on them as well. The small little alleys were called droleens. Sometimes the little rings and so on. You had different names all over the country for the different ones.
And how did you get in and around the place then?
You know, they also, just like the Conkers, they went into your pocket as well. And I remember, like, you could come home sometimes and you would have a pocket full of marbles, and no wonder there was holes everywhere, but you would have an old limp coming home with what was there. There was another game which I thought was really interesting. It was called Pool, and this is recorded in our folk collection as well. You dug a little hole, and let's say the 3 of us were playing, we decided we might put 4 marbles each into the hole. We'll stand back and we'd all try and pitch in a little marble into the hole. If we got it in, great. But let's say Dahi missed out to between Sinead and myself, And then we'd go, and whoever then missed out, the person would take the full pool of marbles that was there.
Oh, that's a one surefire way to lose your marbles fairly quick.
And you know that it's amazing,
Shane.
you know.
Shane, thank you. It was lovely to take a step back in time with you, that's for sure. We really appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much. I wish you could stay longer. We could talk longer. But actually, talking of the Conker World Championships, you did mention it. They actually take place this Sunday, the 13th of October in North Hampshire in England, just in case you're interested.
Yeah, now we are almost there. We have a small bit of business to do. We have 1,000